Hi there everyone, hope you're doing well. Now before I begin this video, let me give a warning to anybody who might be eating, as some people tend to these days when they watch YouTube videos. You might want to put your food down or hit pause until you've finished it, and that's because I'm going to show you some pretty disturbing things. You ready? 3, 2, 1, here we go. Now this is a tapeworm under an electron microscope. Some boffin out there has figured out how to zoom into these tiny things that can live inside of us and even our guts. And many people in the intersection between Christian, schizo and nutrition, Twitter as well as Reddit, have been pointing out that these are demonic looking beings, and it's hard to argue with them. I mean, these things are deeply creepy. I'm not going to keep them on your screen forever, but just to give you an idea of how horrifying and nightmarish and hellish these parasites look like. Now, there are many folks out there online drawing conclusions here between these inner parasites and outer issues we might suffer from. Certain parasites, for instance, might eat your sugar supplies. That means you crave more sugary food and you get obese and depressed and so on. There are other instances of this, such as sapping your energy or addiction issues, and on it goes. And some people are pointing to teachings from Jesus himself, where he speaks about how certain demons within people can only be cast out by fasting and prayer. Now, to be clear, I'm a big fan of fasting and prayer. There is no doubt that these practices, once engaged with and once you start finding your footing, can be really healing for us, physically, mentally, emotionally and spiritually. Now, it's easy to see why it's so effective. Number one, it's a cleanse for the body. It allows your internal system to really have a reset. Number two, we're trying to turn away from the world, obviously by moving away from food, but also from negative thinking in general, really. And on top of that as well, the drama of life, modern media, all that sort of stuff that can have a toxic effect on us. And of course, when we open up that space and time, we invest it into contemplation on God. That could be prayer, it might just be meditation, it might just be sitting silent in the source of being as our souls are renewed. However, all of that said, I'm a bit wary of this talk of parasites being demons, and that's for a very simple reason. We're materializing the spiritual teaching there, and this is very common in modernity. The whole point of our tradition is that it points to something which is metaphysical. That's the great claim of modernity, that the physical is all there is. You're a rational, sane person if you're the scientist. If you think outside of that, you're a wacky loon. But if we're to truly accept the depth of the spiritual life and the traditional life, we have to take on the full Christian teaching, which is nicely expressed in Ephesians with the passage, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." What this means is that the battle or true reality is spiritual rather than physical. And what that means in context of fasting and parasites isn't that parasites are meaningless. We ideally don't want them. The idea is if we're living a true spiritual life, we'll be more harmonious with nature and be more likely to avoid them. But in principle, we can't avoid the decay and corrosion of the physical world. And this is the great bittersweet teaching at the heart of the Christian tradition. We can't avoid the tragedy of the physical world. Everyone we know will pass on, man, parasite, and everything in between. All the great buildings will one day fall. But the great hope that we have, the great truth that we have behind that, is the spirit of life cannot die because it's beyond this world. Now, when I say beyond this world, I don't mean something abstract like a philosophical idea or somewhere out there on Venus or something like that. I mean right at the core of what you are, your true being element of the human being. Meister Eckhart describes this innermost place as where God dwells. He says, God is only to be found in our inner selves, which is the holy of holies where God dwells. Wherever I am, he states, there is God. He also adds, when immersed in the divine within, we are embraced and kissed from the Godhead by unity itself, so that we see and hear differently. Now, it's this innermost space, beyond human form, the stillness within, where we connect, where we are in many ways, the breath of God. And there all darkness is overcome. And that's because the light by its very nature will overcome the darkness. We realize then the darkness is simply an illusion we keep falling into due to our fallen nature. What I'm talking to here in mystic teachings is known as the great I am, the being nature beyond human form, beyond all that which perishes and is timeless. Now, I'm not saying here that this means fasting is any way bad or should be looked down upon. Quite the opposite. I'm trying to point towards fasting being a tool to teach us and introduce us into this space within, so we have hope before and beyond this world. My point being that while fasting is a wonderful tool to overcome the demons and darkness of this world, we cannot overcome them purely on the physical plane, but only through deep spiritual realization and contemplation. I hope this video was useful for somebody out there. If you'd like to connect with me more, do consider joining the Substack. Other than that, please do subscribe to the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day.